गुड।
रेडी?
हाँ जी,
आवाज आ रही है?
बिल्कुल
बिल्कुल आ रही है।
तो अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाजरीन। उम्मीद है आप और आपके अजीज़ व अकारिब सब खैर आफियत से होंगे और इस कोविड से बचे रहे हैं और दुआ है कि बचे रहेंगे। तो आज PACC आपको पहली जूम की सोशल गैदरिंग यानी उर्दू में क्या कहेंगे, वर्चुअल बैठक में खुशामदीद कहते हैं। और कोविड की वजह से आमने सामने तो मुलाकात नहीं हो सकती, पर जूम का सहारा लेके हम ये प्रोग्राम जारी रखना चाहते हैं। तो इस सिलसिले में मैं अर्ज करता चलूं कि गुज़श्ता हफ्ते के न्यूज़लेटर में एक सर्वे था जिसमें आपकी राय मांगी गई है कि किन मौज़ूआत पे अगले सोशल गैदरिंग के पे बात की जाए। तो आप बराए मेहरबानी उनको उस सर्वे को भर के तो वापस कर दें ताकि हम जायज़ा ले सकें। और आज का मौजू तो है बिग बैंग टू ह्यूमंस, पर उससे पहले मैं चाहूँगा कि तसद्दुक अतारी साहब कुछ शेर पेश करें। अतारी साहब।
अच्छा, हाँ, आधा वर्ज। मेरी आवाज आ रही है? आवाज आई?
जी आ रही है।
अच्छा, और मेरा वीडियो आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा?
वीडियो नहीं आ रही।
तो अच्छा, उसके लिए मुझे कुछ करना है या आप लोग कुछ करेंगे?
लेट मी सी के इधर से
वीडियो तो आपको ही ऑन करनी पड़ेगी तसद्दुक भाई।
अच्छा,
वो म्यूट के बराबर में एक स्टॉप वीडियो स्टार्ट वीडियो का बटन है।
हाँ, वो कभी ऑन हो जाता है, कभी ऑफ हो जाता है। तो शेयर योर स्क्रीन आया है।
नहीं, वो ना कीजिए।
नहीं,
अच्छा,
आपका शेयर वीडियो
म्यूट वीडियो के साथ एक वीडियो का बटन है।
हाँ, है तो सही।
उसको क्लिक।
हाँ, मैं क्लिक कर रहा हूँ और कुछ हो नहीं रहा। तो
अच्छा, आपका कैमरा या तो बंद होगा।
ये है शेयर स्क्रीन पे मुझे कुछ करना है?
नहीं।
अच्छा, अब तो जस्ट
आप ऐसे ही पढ़ दीजिए, हम सब सुन सकते हैं।
हाँ, पढ़ देता हूँ। अच्छा, या अच्छा, तो ये मेरे पास ये एक गजल है, तो आप समाअत फरमाइए। ये है इसके शायर का तखल्लुस है। शायर: आतिश कदे दिल को हवा क्यों नहीं देते, आतिश कदे दिल को हवा क्यों नहीं देते, पत्थर तो नहीं लोग सदा क्यों नहीं देते, पत्थर तो नहीं लोग सदा क्यों नहीं देते, सरमस्त अगर हो तो सरे बज़ में रकीबा, सरमस्त अगर हो तो सरे बज़ में रकीबा, एक नारा मस्ताना लगा क्यों नहीं देते, साया है कि खुर्शीद के दिल की सियाही, साया है कि खुर्शीद के दिल की सियाही, महरम हो तो ये राज बता क्यों नहीं देते, सौदा है अगर सर में तो टकराते नहीं क्यों, सौदा है अगर सर में तो टकराते नहीं क्यों, दीवार में दर कोई बना क्यों नहीं देते, सुलझाते हो बेकार ये पेचीदा लकीरें, सुलझाते हो बेकार ये पेचीदा लकीरें, ये नक्श गलत है तो मिटा क्यों नहीं देते, बैठे हो जो यूं जिस्म की कब्रों में सिमट कर, बैठे हो जो यूं जिस्म की कब्रों में सिमट कर, कतबा भी सरे कब्र लगा क्यों नहीं देते, कतबा भी सरे कब्र लगा क्यों नहीं देते, सैकल है ख्यालात का आईना तो शायर, सैकल है ख्यालात का आईना तो शायर, ये आईना दुनिया को दिखा क्यों नहीं देते, ये आईना दुनिया को दिखा क्यों नहीं देते, आतिश कदे दिल को हवा क्यों नहीं देते, पत्थर तो नहीं लोग सदा क्यों नहीं देते। शुक्रिया। हाँ। अच्छा, तो अभी आवाज और तस्वीर दोनों आ रही थी?
जी
जी आ रही थी।
अच्छा
तो
अच्छा, तो ये लगता है कि मेरा सेटअप हो चुका। अब मुझे कुछ और करना है मेरी तस्वीर हटाने के लिए, कि जैसा है वैसा ठीक है?
नहीं, जैसा है वैसे ही ठीक है।
जी हमें
ठीक है, ओके।
कोई इतराज नहीं है आपकी तस्वीर देखने में, आप रहने दें
अच्छा
बेशक।
अच्छा।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया तसद्दुक साहब,
हाँ जी, हाँ, शुक्रिया शुक्रिया।
बहुत अच्छे अशार थे। तो अब
ठीक।
हम प्रेजेंटेशन की तरफ चलते हैं। आज का उन्वान आपने देखा ही होगा, फ्रॉम बिग बैंग टू ह्यूमंस, और ये पेश कर रहे हैं जनाब असगर अबू बकर। और क्योंकि लेक्चर अंग्रेज़ी में है तो मैं उनका तारुफ भी अंग्रेज़ी में ही करा देता हूँ, क्योंकि इसमें कुछ अल्फाज हैं जो मुश्किल हैं उर्दू में मेरे लिए। So Asghar Bhai has a keen interest in evolution and prehistoric human development. Professionally, he is an electrical engineer with an MS from UCLA and BS from NED, Karachi. He has been in high tech for more than 30 years in technical and management positions in companies mainly like Intel. He's currently MD of a venture capital fund and on the board of startups. On the non-technical side, he has been on the boards of nonprofits. He co-founded PACC and is still one of the prime movers and shakers as its treasurer and trustee. So with that, please welcome Mr. Asghar Abu Bakar with a big bang.
शुक्रिया जी आसिम, आपने कुछ ज्यादा ही बता दिया। तो जैसे आसिम ने कहा, मैं ये क्योंकि साइंटिफिक सब्जेक्ट है, उसमें उर्दू में तो ट्रांसलेशन बहुत सारों की मिल ही नहीं रही। मैंने कोशिश की, और अगर मिल भी रही है तो मेरी समझ में नहीं आ रही कि कैसे उसे कहूँ, तो इसलिए ज्यादातर इंग्लिश में होगा। लेकिन मैं अगर हो सका तो जहाँ भी वो कर दूंगा आपको उसमें। तो मैं शुरू करता हूँ। आपको सब आसिम नजर आ रहा है ना?
जी नजर आ रहा है, सही
नजर आ
ठीक है। हाँ, तो जैसे उन्होंने कहा कि मैं तो एक लोनली सेमीकंडक्टर इंजीनियर हूँ, रिटायर्ड इंजीनियर हूँ। इंटेल में 24 साल काम किया था और फिर उसके बाद कुछ वेंचर कैपिटल का किया है। लेकिन मैं एवोल्यूशनरी और बायोलॉजिकल साइंटिस्ट नहीं हूँ, लेकिन मैं पढ़ता बहुत रहा हूँ। मैं आपको बताऊंगा कौन कौन सी बुकें पढ़ सकते हैं। जो बात करूंगा उसमें जो साल बताए गए ना, जो जैसे 100,000 years, वो बड़े ही ऑफ हो सकते हैं। मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि कैसे वो कितने एक्यूरेट होते हैं। और जब मैं होमो सेपियंस मीन्स ऑल ह्यूमंस, जो आजकल हैं ह्यूमंस, वो आप पोस्ट कर सकते हैं कमेंट चैट पे, और क्वेश्चन पूछते हो तो वो भी चैट पे करें, हम सवाल आखिर में जवाब आखिर में देंगे। लेकिन एक PACC का रूल है, बल्कि हमारी बायलॉज में है कि हम पॉलिटिकल और रिलीजियस के चीज़ों पे डिस्कस नहीं कर सकते, और ये टॉपिक ऐसा है कि उसमें थोड़े से डिफरेंट व्यूज हैं लोगों के, तो इसलिए मैं रिलीजियस पोजीशन पे कोई बात नहीं करूँगा। मैं वैसे भी कोई स्कॉलर नहीं हूँ रिलीजन का। तो मैं सबसे पहले एक स्पेशल क्रेडिट देना चाहता हूँ, जो कि मेरा बेटा है असद अबू बकर। उसने PhD की थी एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स में प्रिंसटन से, और फिर उसके बाद उसने यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ मिनेसोटा में वो था पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट, फिर आजकल वो काम कर रहा है। और उसकी जो PhD की थीसिस थी वो बिग बैंग पे ही थी, रिलेटेड थी उससे। वो आजकल JPL में काम कर रहा है, जो कि नासा का प्राइम कॉन्ट्रैक्टर है। स्पेशली जो भी आउट ऑफ अर्थ ऑर्बिट जो जितने भी चीजें होती हैं वो JPL से ही कंट्रोल होती हैं सब। उसने अभी जो मार्स 2020 जो रोवर गया है, उसमें असद वो टीम का एक मेंबर था, जिसमें उन्होंने एक एक्सपेरिमेंट उनका है। तो वो एक्सपेरिमेंट ये था कि वहाँ ज्यादातर उसमें कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड है मार्स पे, बहुत ही कम ऑक्सीजन है। तो वो है, जब अगर इंसान वहाँ रहे मार्स पे तो उसके लिए ऑक्सीजन की जरूरत होगी। तो वो एक्सपेरिमेंट है जो कि कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड को ऑक्सीजन में कन्वर्ट करेगा। टोटल 6 एक्सपेरिमेंट है, दिस इज वन ऑफ दैट। अच्छा, तो ये हैं, देखिए टॉपिक्स तो पहले आपने देखे होंगे। और राइट साइड पे जो बुक्स हैं, और उसमें सबसे पहली बुक है ये ब्रीफ हिस्ट्री ऑफ टाइम, स्टीफन हॉकिंग्स, स्पेलिंग रॉन्ग है। ये अभी इनका 2 साल पहले इंतकाल हुआ है, और उन्होंने बहुत काम किया है ये बिग बैंग पे। ही वॉज ए फिजिसिस्ट वहाँ कैम्ब्रिज से। फिर नेक्स्ट है ओरिजिन ऑफ स्पीसीज, चार्ल्स डार्विन, जो कि चार्ल्स डार्विन की मशहूर एवोल्यूशन थियोरी है, वो उन्होंने लिखी थी। 2-3 और भी बुक्स लिखी हैं, मैंने एक और पढ़ी थी। एक और 1970 में मैंने 1970 की बुक है, जो कि मैंने 10 साल पहले पढ़ी थी। उसका नाम है सेल्फिश जीन्स बाय रिचर्ड डॉकिंस। वो भी एवोल्यूशनरी बायोलॉजिस्ट है, और उसकी मैं बाद में बात करूंगा कि वो सेल्फिश जीन की क्या मतलब है। और फिर द बीक ऑफ द फिंच, उसने डार्विन ने जो किया था वहाँ आइलैंड्स पे, उसके बारे में है। फिर जेरी कोइन ने एक बुक लिखी है एवोल्यूशन, व्हाई एवोल्यूशन इज ट्रू। और रीसेंट बुक है 2017 की सेपियंस, युval हरारी। और वो इजराइल का मैं प्रोफेसर है यूनिवर्सिटी का। और लास्ट है ये गन्स जर्म्स एंड स्टील, जेरेड डायमंड की। उसने ये बताया है कि कैसे डिफरेंट इलाकों में माइग्रेट लोग हुए, और किस किस वजह से कुछ लोग डेवलप हुए और कुछ डेवलप नहीं हो सके। तो साइंस, बेसिस ऑफ साइंस, अब मैं ज्यादा इंग्लिश में बोलूंगा। There is no absolute truth, there is no absolute proof, only overwhelming evidence. And overwhelming evidence means this applies in court very much. If it's an overwhelming evidence, then just say once if a murderer is caught, his fingerprint is on the gun, his DNA is on the bullet. There was an observer also. 99% chance he is the murderer. Now, lawyers can talk about it and they can get him free, but that's different. The other thing science has started, actually, this started in almost 15th century. Europe se start hua ke accept ignorance, that we are all ignorant, mostly. And that's why you should not fear asking questions. Even the things which are known, you should ask question about them and something new. Uski dusri, second thing is that science ka ye hai it has to produce same results under ideal conditions. There was a Newton theory of gravity. It says that no matter what the mass is, they will fall on Earth at a same acceleration, which is like 32 feet per second per second. People were not believing that, so they started doing experiment, and they put a slope and a big steel ball and a small steel ball. They both went downhill at the same time. Now, sometime just the luck and happenstance, so discoveries happen with serendipity. And Big Bang, there was a one element of serendipity. I'll talk about that. There are still many unknowns. Example, how human memory really works, nobody knows. They've tried many things. They're putting electrodes on human brain and everything else, but they haven't really able to do it. Now, they're saying that AI or artificial intelligence will replace human brain, but it's still far away to really replace human work. And there are many other things, especially in biology, there are many other things. And in last 200 years, especially in Europe, science made an exponential advances. Like Einstein theory of relativity he presented that in 1905. And it was just a mathematical equation. There was no proof, there was no observation, there is nothing. He just presented a mathematical equation, a kind of calculus type of thing. Now this is confirmed what he said. When you solve that mathematical equation, it comes out with many answers which are confirmed. And the recent ones are gravitational wave, which I think PSCC presented at PSCC. Dr. Marwala was one of the team member who got the Nobel Prize. They measured gravitational wave. And then just this week or last week, 2 people got Nobel Prize on finding black hole, actually showing black hole, pictures of black holes. So this is how it works. It took more than 100 years to really figure out what Einstein was really postulating. Now, Einstein was wrong when he started, and I'll talk about that in one aspect. So what is Big Bang? When did it start? Not when did it? What was before Big Bang? There are no theories, few theories, but no evidence, no conclusions. And I'll talk a little bit about that, why still scientists believe that there was Big Bang. So before 1920, the understanding was universe is static, means the distance from the stars and galaxies and from each other is same. This is how Einstein actually, when Einstein put the new theory of relativity, he had to put a constant, which is called cosmological constant, to make the solution comes out as static universe. But he was wrong at that time. So in 1929, Edwin Hubble with the telescope, he observed that galaxies are receding from us with a velocity that is proportional to the distance. Means if they are farther, they are moving faster away from us. And that means that universe is expanding. Now, one question always comes up, what's beyond? I mean, what's the edge? And again, there is no real answer for that. What is the edge? So this going away is called expansion. And what is universe expanding into? So it's not that stars and planets are getting bigger. The space between planets or objects are getting better. So the right side, like this is a graph, and the top graph, it's closer, 2 points are closer. If you stretch the graph, they will be farther, but they're still the same size, but the dots are same size. So that's what expansion means. Now, people, how do you measure distance to distant galaxy? So if you know an intrinsic brightness of a object in space, and then you can measure the from the faraway star, you can measure two things in there. What is the size of that star? And based on that and the brightness, you can calculate how far that star is. And they've done, this is becoming very, very accurate now. And one of the things which you have known is that, like, this Mars rover which is going there, it will take it 6 months to reach Mars. So they have to know where Mars is after 6 months from there. And Mars is moving, Earth is moving, Sun is moving. And they will be in the orbit of Earth at exactly same time they've predicted today. So they know the whole thing. Now when it's in the Mars's orbit, then they'll give the command to go into the Mars, on the Mars surface. How do we measure velocity? Now people who are engineers should remember Doppler shift. And Doppler shift is when the things are moving away from you, the light emission from that object changes, its wavelength shifts. And generally, if it's moving away, it shifted toward larger wavelength, and that's called redshift. And then when you measure that, you can measure the velocity of that also. So like, if an ambulance is going, you know that when it's coming to you, it's kind of, the pitch is changing and it's getting more and more shrill. And then when it's going away from you, the pitch becomes shorter and shorter, and slowly it's the wavelength is getting bigger. So that's how they measure the velocity. So Hubble's observation, the velocity is measured by that way. Now, in inflation, there is, in Big Bang, there are two phases. There is a first phase, which is called inflation, which there is no direct evidence, but there are some observation which rule out that, but nothing else. So the way it puts together is that at initial stage of Big Bang, that the universe was just a point with high density and high temperature. And then it started expanding. And within 10 to the power minus 36 seconds, means billionth and trillionth and trillionth and trillionth of a second, it expanded within billionth of trillionth of a second, 10 to minus 32. So that's how it is described. And again, there are no direct evidence, but it is inferred from the properties we see, all the observation with inflation. Now, saying that, I talked about Hawking's. In 1970, he gave a paper on Big Bang very much. Since 1981, he started changing his mind. And actually, this one is, when Asad was, my son Asad was presenting his thesis, I went there when he was presenting his thesis to advisors. And I asked his question, okay, what could be anything else but this Big Bang is like inflation? He said there are theories which say that right now is inflation, universe is expanding, but it will stop. Now this is a theory, and Hawking says the same thing, that it will stop at some point, it will slow down and stop, and then it'll start contracting. And another point will come where there is another Big Bang, and it will go back again. So it's like a rubber band going back and forth. Now, nobody has really done direct measurement of that, but measurements are only predicted by inflation. So after inflation, Hubble law comes into play because now we can measure few things. As I said, galaxies' velocity is in proportion to their distance from us, and farther they are, the faster they are moving away from Earth. The other thing which is kind of surprise to me, and it's very difficult to kind of understand, that no matter where you are in the universe, it will look same. The whole thing, expansion will look same. So it's not that there is a central point where it's moving away from. There is no central place, there is no boundary, at least not that we have found it so far. So if you extrapolate this expansion backward, all known matter ends with high density state, which is called singularity. And it's not the singularity of which Elon Musk talk about, the brain singularity, or human will become superhuman. And at that time, space and time lose its meaning. There is no space, there is no time, because there is nothing else in there. No main characteristics of universe were there. Now, with that expansion, if you measure the speed, we know that what is the speed of expansion, and you calculate backward, then it seems like that the universe is about 13.77 billion years old. And this one number, except for inflation, this number is very accurate. I mean, some people call 3.78, some people call 3.8, but it's about in that range. It's not by million years, 100 million years off. So these are kind of things which we measure today from Big Bang. In early universe, it was so hot that everything was ionized. There were electrons cannot bind with nuclei. And it was like a fog of ionized particles. Even light cannot go through that. So we cannot observe that today. But when expansion started, the universe gradually cooling down. So like think of it as like a something like water. If you spread it out, the temperature will go down. If it's hot when it's in the pan, if you spread it out, the temperature will start going down. So around 380,000 years after Big Bang, universe was cold enough that neutral atoms can be formed. Now it's not a fog anymore. There are atoms in there, and now light can travel through the universe all over the place. And again, I said Doppler effect, and this is for non-scientists, this is what it looks like. When you are when the object is moving away from you, the wavelength becomes larger. When the object is coming toward you, the wavelength gets smaller. And this is basically kind of all the known, at least what we know today, that radio wavelength is shortest, then microwave, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-ray, gamma ray. It's like all the rainbow are in visible range. So that's from red to violet. And the red is on this end of the visible, and the violet and ultraviolet are in this range of visible. Now, this is the serendipity which comes in there. In 1965, or actually before, two of the scientists were setting up very accurate microwave communication. So microwave communication, you know that there are dishes on two sides, quite far away, and microwaves can go farther. I mean, some of the internet and all the other communication we see is through this microwave. And you've seen the disk in Sunnyvale near 680, 101 and close to the airfield. So they were finding that finding microwave was working, but there was a noise. which they couldn't understand why this noise is coming. And this noise was, no matter where they pointed their dish, it was same, and it was coming from like all direction. They couldn't figure it out. At the same time, in Princeton, they were working on the theoretical side of it. So Bell Labs, those two scientists went to Princeton, and they said, this is what we are saying. Say, aha, this is what we are saying about the microwave radiation which is coming. And it's called cosmic microwave background radiation, or CMBR. And it carries the imprint of the conditions at 380,000 years after Big Bang. You can calculate, as I said, distance, and you calculate the velocity. So, and those two Bell Labs scientists got a Nobel Prize for physics on that year, 1965. So you can see this is sometimes science works this way also, that somebody is doing something at one end of the earth, and then somebody measures something else on the other end of the world. And until they meet, then they can figure out what's really happening. So what was inflation and timing of that? Now, this is a lot of kind of theoretical more than evidence, but within 0.01 second of when the inflation stopped, the nuclear fusion started beginning. It started fusion. And at 3 minutes, nuclear fusion ends, and elements were produced, mostly light elements like hydrogen and helium, and some amount of lithium, beryllium, boron. Excuse me. The gravity causes over dense region to pull more matter, collapse. Eventually, dense enough to form stars. I mean, like every mass has a gravity in there, and that's how all the stars and planets move around like planet Earth moves around sun. That's because of the gravity. Then when the stars are formed, the formation of a star is the matter, more and more matter comes into one place, and eventually it becomes a star. In stars, nuclear fusion produces higher elements. This is like hydrogen bomb. This is exactly what you find when the hydrogen bomb explodes. You get a lot of different materials out of it. But it's up to the iron, which is the 26th element in periodic table. And then after a while, there are two items which I would like to explain. One is nova. Nova is a star which just suddenly appears, and within weeks to few months, it kind of goes away. It kind of diminishes. Nova and supernova are very different things. Supernova is a big explosion in space, which eventually form new stars and planets. But with that, the higher elements are produced also. So like up to uranium-92, which is the last element, natural element we find. This can also tell you stars, age of the stars by what kind of elements are in star. And by the way, if you remember again, Mawalawala's presentation, there are binary stars. When they collide, a lot of rare earth element like gold is produced. And thinking is that all of the gold in the universe is produced that way, and it's just spread all over the universe. Then from the calculation, the sun was formed around 4.6 million years ago. Earth was formed around 4.5 million years ago. So this is kind of the start from inflation here to hydrogen here to the modern universe, 13.8 billion years. again, and there are gravitational waves that they show. This is one very good illustration I found. Now, after certain times when Earth was there, the molecules were, organic molecules were formed from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And they are organic elements, like sugar. Sugar is an organic element. It's CH3COOH, if you remember your organic chemistry. At that time, still Earth was super hot. And because of that, many chemical reactions were possible. And things started kind of, this chemical reaction started producing many different things. And today we know that all life form is based on cell made of organic chemicals. Now, how do they know that this is suggested that some life form started? There are some fossils in the rocks from long time ago, 3.7 to 4.1 billion years ago. They, if you date it, and I'll talk about dating, how they do that, they find this organism. Some are single cell organism like bacteria and amoeba. Others are, as you come closer to our time, more different type of thing like old ocean life forms are also, there is a fossil found in there. The evidence is by what they call, one is carbon dating, and then another one is, or actually there are a lot of other ways, many radioactive isotopes. Carbon dating is for the shorter time from here, few tens of thousands of years. And radioisotope, if you remember, that radioactive material has a half-life, and uranium is a very long half-time. So when you find those this fossil, there is some imprint of this radioactive material, but since it was long time ago, it is the ratio of non-radioactive material to radioactive material can tell you how long it took, how long was that fossil was generated. So in 1859, Darwin described theory of evolution, and the book which I mentioned before, and the first book he wrote was The Origin of Species. And his very simple theory was that every life form evolved from a single ancestor. Means bacteria and amoeba in single cell, they went into multi-cell, they became bigger things in there. And then at that time, lots of, even scientists, many biological scientists did not believe that. There was so much controversy. And slowly, when we started looking at things today, or even some time ago, about 100 years ago, people have now started believing that. Now, evolution happens what is called natural selection. And I'll go a little bit over there. And it's not linear, like bacteria becomes something else, and then it becomes something else, and it becomes something. It doesn't happen like that. And what is natural selection? It's a process through which population of living organism change, and they adapt to the change in environment, or they adapt to anything which they cannot either sustain, or they want to reproduce. Both ways this happens. So species who can adapt better will have larger population. Bacteria still are around. I mean, that's like 4 billion years ago, they're still around. Now, the natural selection also can lead to speciation, means different species are very distinct, different species comes in. Basic life forms started evolving natural selection. As I said, only thing which really survive is only thing which survives is which can adapt to the changing, whatever is change is happening. And I'll go over a little bit more later on. Now, these days, vast majority of current biological scientists agree on this. They say that's fine. Now, there are some scientists still argue about that. And one of the things which is humans do for some time now, the artificial selective breeding, especially dogs, right? I mean, dogs they can do very special selection, but that's artificial selection. Some want to make them bigger, some want to make them heavier or whatever. So you can see that that's what's happening. I mean, humans did that. So what natural selection is different, and it's not as again predictable that way. So when life forms started, there are many categories scientists describe it, and there are 5 which are the lower class categories, subcategories. The upper ones are a little bit more difficult to even understand what they're saying. To me also, it's very difficult. So 5 classes are class, order, family, genus, and species. So humans are mammal. And mammals, what is the characteristics of mammal? Let me just look at a little bit from my notes. First of all, mammals have 4 limbs. They have 7 cervical vertebrae. That's cervical is like in your neck. Every mammal would have 7 cervical vertebrae. They have amniotic eggs, means that egg stays in mother's body until it's fertilized and the offspring is produced. They have all the mammals have 4-chamber hearts. So every one of them is same. So start from like dogs, whales, elephants, horses, humans. So the order of human is primates. And primates, let me just look at this. Primates have things which change from mammals or different from mammals is they're still mammals, but they're rotating shoulder joints, a big toe widely separated from other toes, and same for hands. They have stereoscopic vision, means 2 eyes, stereoscopes, so they can measure the distance, and they can go through that. Then next one is that human family is what is called, I have difficulty pronouncing this, Hominidae. And this one, chimpanzee, gorillas, and orangutans. And hominidae, they have robust body, well-developed forms on, but they lost tail, which all primates had tails, like monkeys. Hominids don't have. Chimpanzees don't have tail, gorillas don't have change, orangutans don't have change. Then human genus is what is called at the highest level is Homo. And major species, I have just written it down. And some of the most people know about that is Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalensis, which is Neanderthal, and then Homo sapiens. And there were more also, but some of them don't exist anymore. And actually, Neanderthals don't exist. So closest to human, and first look at the right side, which is start from like this Australopithecus robustus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, Neanderthal, and Homo sapiens sapiens. And Neanderthal is closest to humans. They were stronger than humans. They used tools to hunt and use fires, moved, migrated along with sapiens. And it is believed that they interbred with sapiens, but there is no offspring which really has an evidence. It was just, seems like they're the same species or close to same species that it can breed. It's like donkeys can interbred with horses and they produce mules, but mules are sterile, so they can't produce anything. So that may have happened. They were either killed by sapiens because the competition with sapiens, or then went naturally extinct. They were in Europe when this happens. The last Neanderthal fossils are found, or bodies, and now people are finding bodies with the skeletons already. All of these are now not just fossils, they are bodies found, and they can carbon date it. Homo sapiens, they started between 300 and 260,000 years ago. They have 99.7% common DNA with Neanderthals and 98.4% DNA with chimpanzee. My son has a t-shirt, he says, I'm 98.4% chimpanzee. They are standing like Neanderthal and Homo erectus, can use both arms, signaling, throwing, can see farther. One thing which is for Neanderthals and Homo humans is they can touch thumb to all fingers. Other primates can't do that. Other is that the brain, they were talking about, they can do future planning and strategies. So they went for hunting, they knew what they saw before, and they can plan and they can strategize how to hunt a big animal. Earlier tools were wood and stone. They ate fruits, plants, roots, like other animals, small animals ate at that time. Then they started hunting large animals also. Use of fire for clearing fields, because they wanted to see where the big animals are, small animals are. Cooking meats and kind of roasting nuts. So this is the migration. So there were dramatic climate fluctuation. Some were favorable, some were not. All all of the Homo genus actually started from Africa, and specifically East Africa. So there were like 200,000 years ago, there were like sapiens and Neanderthals. And then they started moving toward Mediterranean, basically Middle East right now. And then to Asia, so like here in this area here. And then they also started moving to Europe. And as I said before, Neanderthal also moved with Homo sapiens. At earliest, sea levels were much higher. So these islands were closer to each other. And so people started moving to Indonesia and surrounding islands with small boats. And then with later on with larger boats, they went all the way to Australia. On the other side, on the north side, they went to Siberia. And why did they go to Siberia? Because there were more animals there, and also there were animals with fur, so they can, humans can protect themselves with fur, clothing of furs. At that time, Bering Sea was not water. It was all ice. So basically they walked to North America about 15,000 years ago. Then slowly they went to Mexico and then went to all over Latin America. So let's just go. So cognitive revolution, how did the human became so, I mean, the human is surviving because of their mental ability, and which is cognition. 70 to 30 years ago, they started making tools, boats, bones, needles, hooks for fishing. And these trait is unique to non-humans. Neanderthal might have many of the similar things. They have highly concentrated nerves. They can do elaborate planning. The other thing which is very important, and humans, at least as we know, because we don't know what other animals can do, but they can imagine things which do not exist in nature. They can come up with stories. They can come up with stories of unseen things and myths. So most of the institutions which we today, and I'll talk about that in a minute, are human institution are figment of human imagination. Storytelling became very popular in most human population around the world. And because of they can talk, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. They can pass this on generation to generation, but after a few generations, the story would disappear. So what happened now? There were hunter-gatherers, and gatherers sometimes are foragers also. Foragers means they just went and collected things. Gatherer is the same thing. Humans were familiar with plants and seeds because they ate them. And also they saw big areas of the same plant. They knew fertile areas that it needs moderate temperature, rainfall. So from 11,000 BCs and onward, they started experiment with sowing seeds and growing plants and other seeds in that way. The earliest crop was like wheat, barley, peas, lentil, and chickpeas. And what is called Fertile Crescent, that's Eastern Mediterranean. So if I go back, this area was the Fertile Crescent. And it is from, if you look at that, that's the most moderate thing in there. There are no what do you call, snowfall on that area. There is no desert in that area except in now Saudi Arabia. And so this was very fertile land. So that's where they started. Then they moved to West Asia, Asia and Mexico. Mexico was maybe the last one which started domesticating plants. And different parts of the world had different type of plants, and according to their condition, and they started at different times from each other. So Mexico was maybe the last one, not the last one, the latest one. And then from there it started everywhere. Wherever there was the weather was good, then they did it. Still, you can see that like deserts don't have any plants, and there are no farms there. Similarly, Siberia is so cold, so much cold, there are not many plants there. Now, this is language development. I'll talk about that. This is very hard because there is no empirical evidence. You cannot find because it was not written at that time. Language just happened. Now, you know that animals can communicate with each other. So like monkeys, where they thought that there was a lion around, they start screaming and run up to the tree. And screaming was to tell other monkeys, hey, there is a lion there. And so everybody went up there. Now, there are two different theories what happened to human. First says that it's a unique trait compared to non-humans. And the unique is that with very limited number of sounds, like if you look at the alphabets, in English alphabets, there are only 26. And then combination maybe 40 to 50. Chinese have more alphabets, but still they are like less than 100. They made infinite number of sentences, each with distinct meaning. So like, I can go is one with the same 3 words. I can say, can I go? Totally different meaning, right? That's how the language developed. The other thing which a human, again, this is most probably the brain thing, is that they can kind of digest the information, what it means, they can store it and in their brain and communicate. And human memory, at least until you are 60 or 70, is very good. I still remember first time I got some kind of, not polio shot or TB, some kind of shot, and I screamed and cried. I remember that in Karachi. So, and you can remember, actually, remember older memories are more vivid than the newer memories. Other theory is that storytelling was the start of languages, because they wanted to talk to their siblings and they wanted to talk to their children. So they started this storytelling. And if you look at many written even languages, earlier languages, there are more stories than just information type of thing. So like and we'll talk about the written one also. So they're just stories in there. They wanted to just store things which they saw. And then different areas of language developed at different times. So like here, like for Iraq and Jordan, and in that area, 3,400 types of, 3,400 BC, the writing developed. And Egypt, about 3,250 BC, China, 1,200 BC, Southern Mexico and Guatemala, about 500 BC. Indus Valley is very different. Whatever we have found so far, nothing writable has been found. Like Egypt, you look at the pharaohs' time, in their pyramids, you see signs over there. You see people or signs or paintings, which are signs are really language, writing basically, they're writing. Indus Valley's and time frame is also undetermined when it happened. But later on, I'm sure from, especially from Middle East, when people started migrating there, they got their, many Arabic alphabets went all the way to Europe and within like Iran and in India. So like this is the example of early writing. And for Iraq and that Mesopotamia, there were like for same things you can see, but you can see that they basically drew what fish look like, right? What a bird look like, what an axe looks like, what an arrow looks like, what a bottle or vessel looks like. That's how it was written. This was the written language basically. And then from there, they came to many, many more letters and words and sentences in there. Now let's talk about institution. Now, as I said, most of the institutions are figment of human imagination. So what happened with the increased farming, more resources were needed. They collaborated with neighboring tribes. Tribes began living together, 500 to 1,000 people. They domesticated animals to help hard work. There is no evidence so far that other animals have domesticated a different animal. Human is very unique in that. And for hunting and security, dog was domesticated. Special tools, shoes, cloth makers, and specialty basically started there. Humans, because of the farming and all of these things which were needed, clothes and shoes, and they had more things with them. So they were tied to one place more and more. And it was very difficult to move. So then villages started settling. And then slowly villages became bigger into towns and cities. So next, which is again, you can think of, this is said many, many times, that commerce and currency, that's a figment of imagination. No animal uses banknotes. No animal uses gold as a value of things. So the way it started, many farmers, when they started more crop, the bartering system started. It was supply and demand. So food for tools, shoes, cloth, and any other special thing. The problem with that was that there is no standard for value. So people were, whoever was in supply side, when he can ask for any price. So instead of bartering, people started using rare items. Rare items were valuable. So people knew what it took to get a rare items like beads and shells. So people started using that. 1000 BC, Chinese started minting copper and bronze coins. Now again, no animals uses coins or metal for that purpose. And 500 BC, silver coins started by British rulers in, not British, Turkish rulers in 500 BC. From 9th through 15th century, China was the first one who kind of invented paper. So it started there using paper. And then in Britain, in 18th century, a standard value in Britain was banknotes, and that which was backed by gold. And until 1971, you know that even US has a gold backing for dollars. Now it's gone, so that's a different issue. The institution as a other institution which came into being is like with farming and many families living together, dispute arises. They were like family to family dispute, water disputes, border boundary of their farms, and many other disputes started happening. So there are always, even in, again, animals, there are kind of leaders. Male, alpha male is the always leader in chimpanzees. He controls the whole band of chimpanzees. The tribal leader had there to set some rules and some way to resolve this disputes. This was the start of the government. A government is again no animal as that type of thing. The other institution, I will not go in detail. Culture and religious rituals, nation state, military, legal system, penal system, mass media, and now in last few, at least 100 or 2 years, formalized education. And there are many more. So there is really, there's still new ones coming in there. Like Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is again figment of imagination. What is a figure, or banks? What does it mean, bank? One of the things which happened with the currency, I forgot to tell you, is that since villages and towns becoming bigger and bigger as far as population, and then they start trading from one town to another, they had to have trust with strangers. And that trust is the one which has created many of the currencies. Then they knew what it means. So banknote today, why do you trust banknotes? Because we have trust, it has a value. Why do you trust gold as a value? Because other people also do the same thing. Even strangers will take or gold or diamond these other way. So this is the kind of end of my presentation. And I'll have Farooq read from the chats, and then if there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Asghar bhai. There are a few questions. Let's see. So about that formation of the universe and the so Wasim Barelwi asked about the gravitational constant, the value, numerical value since the Big Bang. Has it changed, or? Actually, that cosmological constant has gone away. And so if in Einstein's theory of relativity, there is a constant. If you take it out, then if you solve that, then it shows that the universe is expanding. It's not static. That's what happened. So then we have another question about the what element do we use to date? I think that's the question from Muniba. The element that is used for dating? Like you were mentioning how do we date different materials?
Yeah. So dating is like carbon 14 is a radioactive material. And again, people who know the radioactivity, that there is a high half-life of all of the radioactive material. And so when you date that with carbon, it gives you kind of accuracy of few thousand to few tens of thousands of years within that. So things which are recent, relatively recent, you can date it with carbon 14. Carbon 14, when it decays, it comes into neutral carbon. For the longer time, as I said before, uranium and the other isotopes of higher end material elements, they also decay at different life. Their life decay is longer. So they can do it with hundreds of thousands of years, but their accuracy is also very low. And that's why I said, when you said 260,000 to 300,000, they really don't know. I mean, they just found 260,000 with one way of testing it, and another way was 300,000. So that's where the dating comes in.
Okay, and Wasim Saab is again another question asking about the beginning with Neanderthals to now. What were the geological conditions on Earth?
At that time, like they were very similar earlier. 100,000 years ago, they were very similar. Then about 30,000 years ago, there was an ice age. An ice age comes every 30 to 100 years. And that's where people believe the dinosaur died in one of those ice age. So it was kind of same, especially in the Middle East area, which is called Fertile Crescent. It was very similar. Not much has changed. It never became like icy in there. But in North America and South America and Siberia, the ice age was very severe, and the whole population kind of disappeared. Southern Africa also most probably had large effect of ice age. But otherwise, it is kind of, actually people have been killed because of climate change long before because they couldn't survive. They could not take, like, very simple example is if you live in Sahara, very few people can survive there for a long time. First of all, there is no food. There is no other animals around. So basically you die and you go extinct, and that way some of the other species went extinct.
I think these are all the questions. If anybody has questions, they can put it on the chat. I have a question about recently there have been discussions about parallel universes and multi universe theory. So do you have any thoughts on that?
And that is what Hawking never said that way, Stephen Hawking, but his book points to that. He kind of says, and this is now a little bit more science, when the things are very small, like a point with large, very high temperature and small mass, the quantum physics comes into play. And quantum physics is very unpredictable. Like if you remember, if you're in your graduate studies, not undergraduate even, that Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and then Schrodinger equation, which was, I hated that Schrodinger equation. That is kind of unknown things. And he says, it could be that there are many possible universes, which is called multiverse. And there are theories again, but there is no observable evidence. Not to say that there are not. I mean, like Einstein didn't know that universe was expanding. He thought universe was static. So it might take maybe a few decades before it comes out. There is another thing which is people are talking about. I mean, physicists are talking. The string theory, very difficult to understand. Nobody has really been able to prove what it is and what's the effect of that. But it has some effect. Hawking again talk about that. If you read his book, History of Time, Brief History of Time, in the last 2 or 3 chapters, he talks about string theory, but not to some extent, which I was not convinced, or at least I didn't understand what is that means. So there are many other, even in biology and other fields, there are many other things which we can postulate, and it may come true someday, but there is no current evidence. So people and that's what the beauty of science is. People ask questions. If I don't understand, I ask questions. As I said, ignorance is a bliss in this sense, that you must ask questions. If you don't know why, when, what, you must ask a question. Otherwise, you are not learning any new things. It's that simple, and it's, as I said, last few hundred years, that started in Europe, very much in Europe first, and then it has spread everywhere. Still some countries, I mean, there are still people who believe Earth is flat, right? You can't change their mind. Unless you put them on a space station and show them really that the Earth is round. Okay. Anything else? Asim, you have anything?
Nate, it's very educational. No question right now.
Nisar Sheikh Saab just joined, and he sent me some email earlier. Nisar Saab, you have any question? I know you may have missed that language part which you were interested in. If you can unmute yourself, I don't know whether you are muted or unmuted.
Thanks. I thought program was starting at 4 o'clock. Did I miss it?
Yes, 3 o'clock.
Oh my goodness! I just came in. I had it 4 o'clock. I hope I can get the recording. Would that be available?
Yeah, it's being recorded.
Yeah, I hope I can get it. I'm so sorry I missed it. I was really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'll post the link on our newsletter and also in Aram's group, so you can see that. By the way, Nisar Saab, what's your background?
Well, I'm a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
But I have quite a bit of interest in social sciences and all. Our life is more related to everything else. And the note I had sent you, I just learned about evolutionary psychology. And I was so fascinated by the evolutionary psychology, which explains so many things that we are doing it. Yes. And that is such a guidance. And I'm amazed. This book by Robert Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, he's an evolutionary scientist and also the professor of religion. And so I was quite fascinated how some of the religious things that for last 2,000-3,000 years people are practicing, that has helped. And he found out the scientific basis on it.
Yeah.
So
I actually I found something in that psychology which is not related to religion, but that why do people still eat so much these days, right? And that's actually a relic of evolution, because when we were hunter-gatherer, you didn't get meal every day. They didn't eat 3 times a day. So whenever they got something, they had to just fill them up so that until the next meal comes in there, which could be 3 days later. And that's the evolutionary effect. We are still following that, which is just, I mean, and people are getting obese. Because first of all, people are getting obese because they don't move much. But because of this, they just keep on eating.
Yeah, the same thing he is talking about, that in the early time, the greed and aversion, which it comes from Buddhism, is a problem. He says those time in early evolution, greed and aversion means wanting and not wanting was our survival. The people knew where the food was or where the food comes from and how to stay away from the dangers.
Exactly.
So, but now we have gotten so much that we are harmed by that greed and aversion, which used to be a survival thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, there is always, I mean, there are some evolution things which are still around, which are not actually very helpful. So evolution, when the earlier, every animal has this instinct of fight or flight. Every animal has that.
Yeah.
They see danger, they have to decide. And still we do the same thing. It is not that we fight physically between two people. When somebody even says something negative about us, sometimes we stay quiet, but sometimes we fight with words, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. And religion is very different. Religion is very, very different thing. As I think you missed it. I said many of the cultural and religious rituals are figment of human imagination. No other animal does that.
Yeah, actually, I used the wrong word. I should not have used the word religion. It was more talking about the meditation.
Yes.
And mindfulness and
Yes.
being awareness, and rather than acting automatically, you know. So that was I meant.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But that's a little bit different subject.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Right.
So I thank everybody for listening. As I said, it will be, the recording will be on PSCC newsletter next week. And it will be, I'll send it to Dr. Wais Siddiqui also for Aram group posting.
Thank you.
अबू बकर साहब बहुत अच्छा प्रोग्राम था.
अच्छा, शुक्रिया.
हाँ, अगरचे मैं उर्दू का आदमी हूँ, लेकिन हमेशा से मुझको दिलचस्पी रही है साइंस से, और मेरे सारे बच्चे जो हैं वो साइंस पढ़े हुए हैं, मास्टरेट हैं.
हाँ हाँ, नहीं, ये साइंस ऐसी चीज है कि एक बार अगर उसकी लत लग जाए ना,
जी
तो वो छुट्टी नहीं है.
हाँ.
वो जिंदगी भर साथ रहती है आपके.
अच्छा, एक बात मैं ये अर्ज करना चाहता हूँ, ये हदीस कही जाती है कि इल्म हासिल करो चाहे चीन जाना पड़े. चीन में कागज 105 ईस्वी में ईजाद हुआ था, मगर अरब वालों को हजूर के इंतकाल के बाद तक कागज का पता नहीं था.
बिल्कुल.
और आपने बताया कि चीन वालों ने कागज का नोट जो है वो 9 ईस्वी के बाद ईजाद किया था.
नहीं, वो पेपर का तो एक्चुअली जो पेपर है ना, वो चाइना से ही शुरू हुआ है पूरी दुनिया में.
हाँ, यही तो 105 में शुरू हुआ था, मगर हजूर के इंतकाल के बाद तक अरब वाले नावाकिफ थे कागज.
हाँ, ये तो यूरोप में भी नहीं था उस वक्त तो जी. जो पेपर था ना, यूरोप में नहीं था.
अफसोस की बात है.
हाँ, नहीं, अफसोस की बात नहीं है. उस वक्त इतनी मूवमेंट नहीं होती थी ना, लोगों की मूवमेंट नहीं होती थी, तो ये
तिजारत होती थी, लोग आते.
हाँ हाँ, वो मतलब उन्हें पता था तो वो यूज करते थे.
लोग आते जाते थे.
हाँ हाँ, तो इसी तरह से जो वो है ना, बारूद जिसको कहते हैं, वो भी चाइना में.
हाँ,
चाइना में हुआ था. और उन्होंने वैसे तो ज्यादा तो वो फायरवर्क्स के लिए यूज किया है, लेकिन अब न्यूक्लियर मिसाइल्स भी बन रहे हैं उसी से.
हाँ, वो पहला तोड़ा गया तो बारूद ही से.
हाँ भाई, चाइनीज जो कल्चर है ना, जो अभी तक वो कल्चर बहुत सदियों से चल रहा है। इतने लंबा कल्चर कोई रहा ही नहीं है जो कि अभी भी आप देखें तो उनकी जो राइटिंग से रिलेटेड वो बहुत ही पुरानी चीज है। जो डायनेस्टीज उनकी थी उस वक्त वो अभी तक चल रही हैं। मैं चाइना गया था अबाउट 3-4 साल पहले, 5 साल पहले। वहां अगर देखें तो ताज्जुब होता है। और वो बीच में जो कॉलोनाइजेशन हुई ना, उसकी वजह से वो रुक गए, लेकिन उनकी इन्वेंटिवनेस बहुत ही ज्यादा है। देखिए ना, सभी जगह पे इन्वेंटिव लोग होते हैं। पाकिस्तान, इंडिया में भी बहुत ही इंटेलिजेंट और इन्वेंटिव लोग हैं, लेकिन मेरा ख्याल है चाइनीज सबसे ज्यादा थे और अब भी फिर से हो रहे हैं।
इस के ऊपर एक पेपर के ऊपर एक और नोवा का प्रोग्राम पीबीएस पे आया था अभी रिसेंटली। तो उसमें उन्होंने कहा कि चाइना ने के जो बादशाह थे, उन्होंने ये पेपर बनाने का जो तरीका था वो सीक्रेट रखा हुआ था।
अच्छा।
और जब मुसलमान यानी ये रोम और फारिस को फतह करते हुए जब चीन के दरवाजे तक पहुंचे, तो वहां पे उन्होंने कुछ फतूहात में एक पेपर बनाने वालों को पकड़ लिया और फिर उनको ला के उनसे कहा पेपर बनाओ हमारे लिए। इस तरह पेपर यूरोप तक आया था। तो मुसलमानों की ये कंट्रीब्यूशन थी उसमें पेपर में।
ऐसी तरह के तो और मिसालें भी हैं। जो रॉकेट है, वो जब जर्मनी से साइंटिस्ट पकड़े गए, वो यूएसए ने उसके थ्रू रॉकेट बनाया। उनसे पहले तो किसी को रॉकेट बनाना यूएसए या ब्रिटेन में आता ही नहीं था। जो ये नासा के में जो इंजीनियर पहले थे, वो सब ज्यादातर वो जर्मन थे। लेकिन वो बड़ी डिफरेंट बात है। चलिए जी, और कुछ अगर।
अबू बकर साहब, बड़ी खुशी हुई, आपने बहुत अच्छा प्रोग्राम बनाया ये।
शुक्रिया। अच्छा, जैसे उसने आसिम ने कहा, आसिम आप बताइए वो जो हमारे उसका सर्वे का है।
जी, वो मैंने पहले भी जिक्र किया था कि गुज़श्ता हफ्ते के जो न्यूज़लेटर है उसमें एक सर्वे भी है जिसमें आपकी राय मांगी गई है कि कौन से मौजू वाले प्रोग्राम में उन पे बात की जाए। तो वो मेहरबानी से वो पुर करके हमें भेज दें ताकि हम आपकी मर्जी के मुताबिक अगले प्रोग्राम मुरतब करें।
उससे ये अभी हम ये मैंने बताया नहीं, लेकिन ये जो मेरा ये जो मैंने टॉक दिए वो एक्चुअल अप्रैल में होने वाली थी। वही सिद्दीकी साहब ने उन्होंने अग्री किया था, तो वो हम चांदनी में किया करते थे, फिर ये वायरस आ गया। तो मैंने उस वक्त अभी कुछ प्रिपेयर नहीं किया था। पिछले 1 महीने से जब से मैंने और आसिम ने ये सोचा कि नया फिर से सोशल गेट टुगेदर का करें, तो फिर मैंने प्रिपेयर करना शुरू किया और रोज उसको चेंज करता रहा। पता नहीं 1000 बार चेंज हुआ होगा ये प्रेजेंटेशन।
तो प्रेजेंटेशन की भी एवोल्यूशन हुई है।
बिल्कुल हुई है। अच्छा, ये एवोल्यूशन की एक और बात बताऊं। ये आपने प्रेजेंटेशन की कहा ना, तो ये एवोल्यूशन में वो जो कहते हैं ना कि सिलेक्टिव, वो नेचुरल सिलेक्शन। तो फर्ज करें कि आपके पास एक नॉवल है जो आप फिर से टाइप करना शुरू करें, उसमें कितनी मिस्टेक्स होंगी? That's mutation. That is called mutation, which is not survivable because it's a mistake. So somebody else will come and correct it. That's the example of mutation. अच्छा, एक और चीज मैंने कहना भूल गया कि बैक्टीरिया जो हैं, ये सेल्फिश जीन का ये कॉन्सेप्ट है कि जीन्स ऑलवेज वांट टू सर्वाइव एंड प्रोड्यूस मोर। तो बैक्टीरिया जो होते हैं पहले आए, तो जब पता चला तो पेनिसिलिन वाज द फर्स्ट मेडिकेशन। वो रेजिस्टेंस आ गई उनकी, राइट? इसलिए कि दे वांटेड टू सर्वाइव, उन्होंने म्यूटेट किया कि पेनिसिलिन का कोई फायदा नहीं होगा। वो हर 10, 15, 20 साल बाद वो म्यूटेट होकर नई चीज आ जाती है। इसी तरह ये वायरस है, उसका एग्जाम्पल मैंने दिया। ये और भी जो रेस्पिरेटरी वायरसेस होते हैं उसका सेम है। वो ये चाहते हैं कि इसको जितने होस्ट जितने से ज्यादा मिले उतनी अच्छी बात होगी। तो ये कि एक किसी को हो गया, या तो वो मर गया, खत्म हो गई बात। सरवाइव किया वो भी खत्म हो गई बात, उसमें एंटीबॉडीज आ गए या एटलीस्ट थोड़े टाइम के लिए इम्यून हो गया। लेकिन जो जिंदा है वो इस तरह से उस पर फैलता है कि वो कहता है दूसरे जो जिनको थोड़ी सी सिम्टम्स हुई हो ना, तो उनको टिकल करता है थ्रोट में कि आप खांसें, खांसने से दूसरे को लगता है। That's how this virus and all the respiratory virus survive. They just want to जैसे आपको फ्लू भी होता है, इससे वायरस, राइट? आपको खांसी आती है, कॉफ होती है, बीमार बुखार आता है, I mean, so so Selfish Gene is a very good book. Although this guy has a totally different philosophy about religion, but this book is one of the best I read as far as gene and gene evolution कहना चाहिए या mutation. चलिए जी, thank you very much.
असगर भाई, बहुत
जी।
अच्छी presentation, very informative.
Thank you.
मेरे बेटे ने बल्कि काफी देर तक सुना. Zaki, he is very interested in astronomy and runs an astronomy club for his school. तो वो बैठ गए और बहुत देर तक सुनते रहे. वो क्वेश्चन भी आपसे उन्होंने पूछा था, Zaki ने.
मैंने देखा वो, मैंने
जी,
देखा.
so I just wanted to say that thank you for a very good presentation, very informative.
लेकिन सब जो है ना, जैसे आसिम ने कहा, वो जरा सर्वे फिल करें कि और क्या हम सब्जेक्ट जो है वो करें, और अगर आपके पास कुछ है टॉपिक तो वो आप प्रेजेंट करें, या एक और जिसके उसमें सर्वे में ये है कि अब अगर आपको पता है कि और कोई अच्छे प्रेजेंटर्स हैं किसी स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक पे, as long as it's not religious and politics, PSCC will organize it.
Sure, जी बिल्कुल.
चलिए जी,
Thank you so much.
आसिम खत्म करें फिर.
तो जी इस पे इख्तिताम करते हैं. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया असगर भाई, बहुत ही इल्म हासिल किया हमने, और वही नहीं बल्कि ख्वाहिश पैदा हुई कि और इस पे पढ़ें और जानें. तो और सामीन का भी शुक्रिया कि वक्त निकाल के आपने साथ दिया. और अपना ख्याल रखें, मास्क पहने, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग करें, और इंशाल्लाह जब ये अगला प्रोग्राम फाइनल होगा तो फिर हम आपको इतला देंगे न्यूज़लेटर के ऊपर. फिर से गुजारिश के सर्वे में अपनी राय दें.
आसिम, मैं पॉलिटिक्स की बात तो नहीं करना चाहता, क्या मैं ट्रम्प की रैली में जा सकता हूँ? नहीं.
मैं भी पॉलिटिक्स की बात नहीं करना चाहता, तो आपकी मर्जी है, जो करें.
लेकिन पॉलिटिक्स की बात हो रही है तो मैं बस एक रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूँगी. कल PSCC होस्ट कर रहा है एक कैंडिडेट फोरम, जिसमें लोकल कैंडिडेट्स शामिल होंगे, और आप अपने क्वेश्चंस हमें भेज सकते हैं. ईमेल है info@pascc-ca.org, या फेसबुक पे मैसेज कर सकते हैं. हमारी न्यूज़लेटर में भी ये इंफॉर्मेशन गई है, तो काइंडली अगर आप ये देखें और बिल्कुल शामिल हों. PSCC का जो इलेक्शन फोरम है जिसमें इलेक्शन कैंडिडेट्स इंशाल्लाह होंगे, which is tomorrow at 2:30 from 2:30 to 4:30.
ठीक है जी, चलिए.
अच्छा जी,
Thank you.
खुदा हाफिज.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.